Once again, Happy New Year. Yeah, it's liturgical New Year, but Happy New Year to you. We're beginning this new year, and how do we begin it? With some great readings, don't we? Although at first, we hear these readings and we're like, I thought that Advent was supposed to be a time of joy. I thought that Advent was supposed to be a time of celebration and parties. Well, I think we're getting Advent confused for Christmas. Because what Advent is a time of preparation. Now, we're not naive. We do know at the end of Advent, 4 weeks from now, on December 25th, we are going to celebrate that Jesus Christ has came into this world, that he has borne flesh, and that he is one with us. So we know this. We know it's a preparation for that big party. But also we know that Advent is a time of preparation for the second coming of Christ, preparing the way of the Lord once again in our heart. Of course, we hear this in the Old Testament, but we think, oh, it's the Old Testament. That went out the window when Jesus came. Okay, but what did Paul say? Paul in the letter to Thessalonians says what? He says, be strength. It says what? So as to strengthen your hearts, be blameless in holiness before our God, our Father, at the coming of our Lord Jesus with all his holy ones. Paul tells us to build up strength. But not only this, Jesus tells us to build up strength for the coming of him again on that judgment day, where some people are going to be so worried about it that they are going to pass away because of anxiety. But Jesus says what? Pray. Pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent and to stand before the Son of Man. We need to pray for strength to be one in front of God. And how do we gain strength? It takes training. It takes effort. I think a good analogy of this is, let's say you wanted to climb Mount Everest. I don't know why you'd want to climb Mount Everest. It's really cold out there, especially on top, I heard. But let's say you wanted to climb Mount Everest. You wouldn't just show up at the base one day and say, you know what, I'm going to climb this without any training, would you? No. Why? Because you know that you would fail. You just can't do it. It's not possible. People that climb Mount Everest take years and years of training and sacrifice. They just don't show up there one day. You know, I had a similar experience of climbing Mount Everest. Now, it doesn't compare to it, but for me, when I was younger, when I was in high school, when I was in college, I was a very big guy. I was actually a football player. I threw this shot put, and long-distance running for me meant running from here to the fridge, all right? That's what long-distance running meant. But I always thought in the back of my mind, I wonder if I could run a marathon. And I added it to my bucket list. I said, you know what? I want to run a marathon one day. And why? Well, because my dad had been training to run a marathon before he got sick with cancer and passed away. And a couple of my siblings have ran a marathon in honor of him. And I said, you know what? I really want to run a marathon. But I'd start thinking about it and say, I can't do this. There's no possible way. I can't run a mile without getting tired. But about 3 or 4 years ago, I set my mind that, you know what? Maybe I can't run a marathon. But I wonder if I can just run like 5 miles without stopping. And at first I started to run like a half a mile, and I'd take a little walk, quarter of a mile, then I'd run another half mile, and eventually, after about 6 or 7 months, I was able to run 3 to 4 miles without stopping, and eventually it got to 5 miles. The amazing thing is, I wasn't such a big guy anymore either. I don't know why that happened. But anyways, the weight started leaving, I was able to run farther and farther, and one day I was able to run the 6.2 miles around Mississippi Boulevard at St. Thomas. If you can run around that loop, you almost feel like you're a long-distance runner. I said, this is amazingly awesome. Maybe the marathon isn't so far away, but I said, you know what? I've never ran 10 miles before. And I knew a 10-mile run was from St. Thomas to the cathedral and back. And I knew if I could run 10 miles, then I could be considered a long-distance runner. So I made it my goal. I made it my goal that I was going to be able to run to the cathedral and back before I got ordained a priest. And 3 weeks before I got ordained a priest, I was able to do that run. I was so happy running down Summit Avenue thinking, yes, I've finally been able to accomplish this. But then you know what happened? I got ordained a priest, which is awesome, by the way. But I got ordained a priest, and I wasn't able to run as much anymore. And soon, very soon after that, I was struggling just running 3 or 4 miles. Why? Because I wasn't training. Well, after being ordained a priest for about a year, I thought, I wonder if I could still be able to run a marathon. And I said, you know, it's going to take a lot of commitment, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, and most importantly, I'm going to need permission from my pastor. So I went to my pastor at the time, Father Dennis Zarin, who's now at Nativity of Mary in Bloomington. I said, Father Zarin, can I train for this marathon? He says, what does it entail? I said, maybe like a 20-minute run here and there. Yeah, I lied about it, but he said, okay, go for it. 20 minutes here and there, right? So all it's going to be is 20 minutes and not a big deal. And I said, yeah, it's not that big a deal. And once again, it was a big deal. But he said, go for it. And I said, you know what? I'll even run it in honor of the school, and I'll try to raise some money for the school marathon. So he said, go for it. Let's see what happens. So all that summer, I trained for the marathon. 18 weeks of training. 3 miles one day, 5 miles the next day, 3 miles, 10 miles. Eventually it turned into 5 miles, and 10 miles, and 5 miles, and 20 miles, 40 miles in a week, a lot of sacrifice. And eventually I stepped up to the start line on October 2nd, 2011, and I got there, and you know what? I wasn't scared of running the marathon anymore because I knew that I had put the training in that I needed. All the effort, all the sacrifices had happened. And I ran that marathon. It was beautiful, and I got to the cathedral once again, right? It's about 0.2 miles left to the finish, and I was running by it, and it hit me. Yes, I was able to run a marathon. I knew I was going to finish at that time. But it wasn't complete happiness. It wasn't complete fulfillment. I had put all this time, all this effort into this one goal, but yet I knew it wasn't complete happiness because it wasn't the top of my bucket list. See, at the top of my bucket list, and hopefully at the top of your bucket list, is the same. And it says what? To be with one with God in heaven. To make it to heaven. To be a saint. But in order for this to happen, my brothers and sisters, we can't just have it at the top of a list. We can't just think, I wish that I can be with God in heaven. We need to make sacrifices. We need to train our soul to be able to be one with God. There's this beautiful saying, I'm sure you've heard it before, that grace builds upon our nature, which means what? That yes, we have a nature, that yes, we are mankind, human beings, but that isn't it. But that God can work with us and give us more grace, give us more strength to be with Him. But in order for this grace to build upon us, in order for this grace to grow upon us, we can't just wish it. We can't just show up one day and say, I hope I can be with God in heaven. We have to put in the work. We have to work at it. We can't just hope and wish. Advent for us is a perfect time to grow in this strength, to prepare our hearts, to prepare our mind, to prepare our soul for God. What a beautiful time it is. 4 weeks. It's like a 4-week boot camp of getting our life back in order and sacrificing something in our life so that God can grow inside of us. Don't waste this time. Don't waste this opportunity. Advent 2012, you should be able to look back at 10 years from now and say, that was the year I finally grew in my faith, that I finally put in the effort that I knew I needed to do. Which means what? Well, of course, going to Mass every single Sunday. You're here tonight. Beautiful. Keep that going. But you just can't show up once a week and think about God and think that's going to be enough. God has to be at the forefront of your mind at all times. So going to Sunday Mass, maybe making it to a daily Mass here at St. Ambrose, going to confession, right? Having our soul wiped clean, spending 15 minutes a day in prayer every single day in Advent. You will be amazed what happens over those 4 weeks. Building up the strength, volunteering places, going to feed my starving children, going to a nursing home, calling that person you haven't talked to for 6 or 7 months who you know is going through a hard time, putting in the effort. Why do we do this? What is the goal? The goal is that we can stand in front of God on the day of redemption, whenever it may be it 2,000 years from now when Christ comes again, or be it tomorrow, that we can stand in front of Him and not be afraid because we know that we have put the effort in. Don't waste this time. It's worth it. Make this Advent a time to kickstart your life and to change what you know needs to be changed. We all need to change. We all need to turn away from sin. Even the saints thought this. We need to do it as well. my brothers and sisters, make this Advent of 2012 a time of change and, most importantly, a time of preparation so that you may be one with God.